Ain't no friends in the industry. Hi, welcome to the channel. I'm Jay, and this is our 2 cents, where we talk everything boxing, and everybody's entitled to their own opinion. In today's video, we will be discussing Errol the Truth Spence Jr. and Jermell Lions Only Charlo. But before we do that, make sure you punch that like and subscribe button, and make sure you let me know and drop it below your 2 cents as we go throughout the video. Be sure to help support the channel by hitting the Cash App at $2centsboxing, or hitting that heart with a $sign in it, and leaving a special thanks below, just letting me know you enjoy the content. Now, yesterday, I think it was yesterday, I'm minding my business, chilling, and somebody shoots me a text message. It was 2 text messages, and when I opened my phone and looked at the text messages, this is what I saw. So I looked at it for a couple of seconds, and I'm like I had some cognitive dissonance going on. I'm like, what? I was like, Spence, I know Spence is big fish, but who else is big fish, right? I'm like, I know Spence is big fish, but who else is big fish? Because I know Charlo not calling out Spence, right? So Charlo calling out Spence, the picture, the call out start going viral. Because my brothers are huge Errol Spence and Charlo fans. They from Texas. We huge fans of both of them. My brothers start calling me, oh, Errol and Charlo, blah, 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 right? So once I finally started thinking about this, and I was like, man, is Charlo really calling out Errol? Is Errol and Charlo really going to fight each other? So I started thinking. I do remember, the conversation. It wasn't like a heavy conversation, but it would come up. And they both was like, nah, I ain't really trying to fight Errol, but if the price is right, it is what it is. It's business, basically. And so when I seen this announcement, I was like, it's not far-fetched to believe that they would try to make a fight with Errol the Truth Spence Jr. and Charlo at the 154-pound division. Now, in the beginning, this was the only call out for a couple hours. This was the only call out on Jermell's page. This was the only call out. And so I was thinking, is this fight in the works? Are they trying to just kind of put it in the public? And then I start hearing rumors about, they negotiating, or the fight's going to be in December, right? You start hearing all of these rumors. And I'm thinking like, damn. So let me break this down for y'all, because I don't know how long a lot of y'all been watching my channel, and I know recently I've been labeled as quote unquote Tank's #1 fan. And don't get me wrong, I am a Tank fan, right? But if I'm anybody's #1 fan, if I'm a quote unquote fangirl for anybody, it's going to be Errol the Truth Spence Jr., who is my favorite fighter, right? Errol the Truth Spence Jr. is my favorite fighter. And Jermell Charlo is also one of my favorite fighters. And at first I wasn't a fan of Jermell, because him and his brothers was always too emotional. They was always getting into it with people, right? They was always on social media being crazy and doing all this other stuff. So I didn't pay him a lot of attention in the beginning, just because I didn't really like his personality. But this is like, I wasn't a heavy boxing fan like that, right? I was more quote unquote super casual, just watch the big fights, that type of thing. So I started to watch Jermell Charlo go on his run for Undisputed. I'm watching Jermell, I'm watching Spence, I'm watching Jermell, I'm watching Spence. I really became a big fan of Jermell's fighting style. I really liked how he went through the division. He overcame adversities, losses, did immediate rematches, came back, won fights, all of these things that he was able to do and accomplish at the 154-pound division. He went up, fought Canelo. People feel how they feel about the Canelo fight. I got a video on my page about how I feel about Charlo after the Canelo fight. If I can, I'll link it at the end. Make sure you click it so you can watch it. But I didn't have an issue with Mel with the Canelo fight. It didn't change how I felt about him at all as a fighter, because people don't want to be on, and it just is what it is in these boxing streets, right? People not using their logic when they're looking at these things. They're kind of being emotional. They got their bias and whatever, it's two cents boxing, everybody entitled to their own opinion. But that fight that Charlo had with Canelo did not change his opinion. Did not change my opinion of him. Matter of fact, still to this day, I was saying it before this fight was announced, I still think that Jermell Charlo is the best fighter at 154. And when PBC put up that picture for a 154-pound tournament, I still feel like Jermell Charlo can beat all of those guys. Now, I do think some of the guys will give him a challenge, like a Fundora. I actually think Fundora might be his biggest competition. And if Errol Spence is, let's say, 80 or 85% of himself, Errol will be pretty big competition for him, right? So now I'm thinking, like, you know what? I've never seen, think about it, these are two Black African American fighters, right? I've never seen two of my favorite fighters fight each other, not like this. Like, don't get me wrong, Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford are two of my favorite fighters, but I had a bias in that fight leaning towards Errol Spence because I thought Errol Spence was going to beat Terrence Crawford. I don't really have a bias in this fight, right? I don't really have a bias in this fight. It's kind of like I want to see the fight because it's my two favorite fighters. I want to see which one will win. But then it's like I don't want to see the fight because they're two of my favorite fighters and I don't want either one of them to lose, right? So I'm like, man, like how do I feel about this fight? And I want y'all to stick around to the end because I'm going to let you know who I would pick and who I would think will win this fight. But I want to get more in depth in this, but I don't want it to be a long video. I just want to come on here real quick and tell you all my initial reaction when I seen this call out of Errol Spence. And I was like, man, like, first of all, I thought this call out was dope. The lion with the shark in the mouth, I think is great marketing. I think it's a vicious call out. Like, this is a vicious call out. Look at that. Look at this picture, y'all. It's a lion with the shark, big fish in his mouth, just standing there. And then he came up with the no friends in the industry type thing. Man, listen, that was a vicious call out. I liked that call out. It was great. It captured everybody's attention and it went viral. When you seen the picture, you knew exactly who it was and exactly what he was talking about. And I'm just wondering, is PBC really going to make this fight? Because I feel like if they were going to make this fight, it should be later down the line. But again, we don't know what's going on with Errol the True Spence Jr. We don't know what's really going on with him. We don't know if he is really able to be competitive or is he just able to get in there and fight and still work basically and get paid for his family. And I don't have any issues with Errol. I am, as a fan, I'm very satisfied with his career as a fan, right? I'm about to talk to y'all as an Errol Spence fan. I'm very satisfied with his career. It was unfortunate that he wasn't able to beat Terrence Crawford and become undisputed. But to me, when Errol Spence came back from that car crash in 18 months and beat Danny Garcia, it was solidified for me, right? Like, Errol, great job. Glad I've been a fan. You've done enough for me, right? If he would have beat Terrence Crawford and got undisputed, that would just put the icing on the cake. But as an Errol fan, here's where I'm selfish at. I just want Errol Spence to come back to 154 division, get a belt, right? Y'all, the people act like I don't care about legacy. I don't care about belts. I don't think they're important. I've never said that. I don't think they're as important and they don't hold as much weight as y'all try to make it seem. However, the symbolism, what's the word I'm looking for? Let me know and drop it below if y'all can remember what word I'm trying to say. But if Errol can come, it'll be symbolic. If Errol can come back to the 54 division and win a championship belt and then retire, I think that'll just be a big middle finger to all of the haters, right? Because we know Errol got the money, his money's set, he's straight, right? We don't know what's going on with him medically, if he's okay, if he's gonna be able to continue his career like nothing ever happened and just bounce back. We don't know. So let's say it's the first thing I said, he got something going on medically, he don't got a lot of fights left in him. or he don't got a lot of competitive fights left in him, because we can't say he can't fight. He probably still can fight, but how competitive could he be, right? Because he still want to be able to make that money and put food on the table. So just come back, Spence, fight a champion, grab a belt real quick, and then retire and leave out a champion. Come back one more time. Errol the True Spence Jr. is the comeback king. Now, I don't know for sure if he can come back, and I'm not like acting like he's Superman, like he could just overcome everything and nothing is going to affect him. But I do think that he can come back and possibly win another belt. You know, if he's 80 to 85% of himself, maybe even 75% of himself, he can come back and get another belt. So as a fan, right? This is as a fan of Errol Spence. That's what I would want him to do, right? But if he doesn't do that, I'm not gonna criticize him, call him names, call him stupid because he ain't taking no tune-up. When if you're an Errol fan, you know he don't take tune-ups, so you shouldn't expect him to take one, right? So, and as a fan of Jermell Charlo, I want him to come back and run through the whole division again, just like he did the first time. Now he's older. Jermell Charlo's older now. He's not as young as he used to be. But I think that the fighters at 154 pounds now, while they're younger, I don't think they're as good as the fighters. Yeah, let me know and drop it below. I want to say they're not as good as the fighters that Jermell ran through on his first run. And I know a lot of people like to be like, oh, he got beat by Tony Harrison. He had to rematch Castaño, but neither one of those are bad fighters. Castaño's a good fighter and Tony Harrison's a good fighter, and styles make fights. So we got to stop trying to make it seem like just because you got losses, it's a knock. You know what I'm saying? Just because you got losses, it's a knock on you as a fighter. When you get losses, you bounce back and you keep it moving. It's boxing. Boxing is the only sport where people feel like you should be undefeated in, or it's a knock on you if you have a loss. And I don't understand that. It's not very many fighters in boxing that are undefeated, so I don't think that should really be the standard. But I digress. So how did you all feel when you seen that the Errol Charlo fight is possibly in the works to be made? Let me know and drop it below your 2 cents. What do you think about that? I mean, I'm pretty sure, you're not as excited as I am, because these are 2 of my favorite fighters fighting each other. And I've never seen 2 of my favorite fighters fighting each other where I didn't have a bias, where I didn't just pick one, right? And so Charlo also, a couple of hours after this drop, he also called out some other people, but that's going to be another video, because I wanted this video to be strictly about Errol and Charlo. I just don't know if they're going to make this fight. And PBC has a way of dropping fights that you ain't even know you wanted to see. Same way they did with the Canelo Charlo fight, undisputed versus undisputed. I was like, damn, you know what? I never thought about Jermell fighting Canelo. Undisputed versus undisputed. That's interesting, right? So that whole, marketing thing they decided to use for that fight, I thought that was a good idea. And let me say something about this, and I keep telling people this. I love the business of boxing. I love learning about the business of boxing, and I love talking about the business of boxing. I'm an entrepreneur. So I'm just into business like that. Like, I'm a nerd like that. That's my thing. So over here at 2 Cents Boxing, we will cover ticket sales and marketing and promo and promotional companies. We're going to talk about all of that. We're going to talk about all of that over here on this channel. But I told y'all to stick around to the end of the video, because I was going to let you know who I was going to pick out of the Errol Spence Charlo fight. And I would think that, I want to say, I do believe Errol, if this, let's say, if all things equal, set in stone, we don't know if Errol don't got a question mark, I would say Errol beats Charlo. If Errol didn't have a question mark. But since that question mark is there, and I already believe that Jermell can run through the division again like he did the first time, I'm going to say I think Jermell wins the fight, but I'm rocking with Spence. I'm rocking with Spence. If Spence is 80-85%, I think it's possible that he could beat Jermell Charlo. Now, I don't know if I feel like Spence could run through the division, but I do think Charlo wins that fight, but I'm going to rock with Errol Spence because that's my guy. So let me know what you think by dropping your 2 cents below in the comments. What do you think about Jermell Charlo letting it be known that there's no friends in the industry and him posting this vicious call out of Errol Spence? By dropping your 2 cents below in the comments. Follow me on IG at 2 Cents Boxing. Follow me on X at 2 Cents 20. And stay tuned for my 2 cents in the next video.